I can't even describe it. All I can tell you is I can feel it, you know? It's just that deep. It's just right from there.
So everything that she does, she still carries forth her gospel training.
I had no idea that Whitney felt as close to me as she does.
Aretha Franklin is a woman greatly beloved by the public but rarely believed in the industry, and she warned the great Whitney Houston about Clive Davis before her death.
What? This could not be. What is this? It's just so sad. It's hard to believe. It's really just hard to believe. She was one of the better singers, if not the best. Sissy taught her how to fight and how to be a fighter in this business.
Aretha had a long-running friendship with Clive, and that is exactly how she knew what sort of man Clive Davis really was.
She had a number of difficult evenings in Europe. I watched that online myself.
When you watched it, what did you think?
I didn't like what I saw.
Many believe Whitney Houston's death holds eerie circumstances suggesting potential foul play. What adds to the intrigue is her connection with Clive Davis just before her passing. She was found dead shortly after a meeting with him. As the investigation continues, the spotlight is narrowing on Clive Davis. Clive Davis holds immense power within the music industry, standing out as one of its most influential figures. His track record speaks volumes, especially with the launch of Arista Record, where he successfully signed numerous major black acts. The impressive roster includes Patti Smith, The Outlaws, Eric Carmen, Exposé, Ace of Base, Air Supply, Dionne Warwick, Ray Parker Jr., and Radio, Aretha Franklin, and Alicia Keys. Davis played a pivotal role in giving Puffy his initial opportunity to establish Bad Boy Records, but his greatest success came with the discovery of Whitney Houston. Astounded by Houston's extraordinary singing talent and her image as an all-American sweetheart, Clive seized the chance to propel her into mega-stardom. This move greatly benefited Whitney and significantly boosted Clive Davis's net worth, reportedly close to $800 million. However, as Whitney navigated the complexities of the music industry, she, like many others, began to notice peculiar and unsettling occurrences. In her 2002 interview with Diane Sawyer, she candidly addressed the challenges she faced and the demons she battled, shedding light on the darker aspects of the industry. At times, Whitney appeared uneasy, uncomfortable, and cautious with every word she spoke, even mentioning an inner struggle she described as being possessed by a controlling inner devil. During that interview, she also discussed her dispute with Clive Davis and hinted at a potential conspiracy to harm her. By revealing numerous industry secrets, she unwittingly made herself a target. Exploiting her vulnerabilities and past struggles with addiction, some aimed to undermine her credibility and ensure that the public dismissed her revelations. The unexpected and shocking news of Whitney Houston's death came at a time when no one anticipated such a tragedy, especially given the circumstances. This sorrowful twist of fate profoundly impacted the music world. Tragically, the entertainment industry has seen numerous instances where artists, overwhelmed by the demands of their work, succumbed to substance. Whitney Houston was no exception. Her ongoing battle with and alcohol, along with smoking and deteriorating health, cast a shadow over her career, leading to an irreversible tipping point. The unfortunate turn of events occurred on February 11, 2012, the day before the Grammy Awards. As music industry luminaries gathered in Los Angeles, Whitney Houston, accompanied by her family and friends, checked into the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Clive Davis, Houston's mentor, was hosting his traditional pre-Grammy party that evening. While preparations for the festivities were underway, Houston's assistant, Mary Jones, arranged her dress on the bed and then left the room. In the brief period Jones was away, Houston was discovered unconscious and submerged face down in a water-filled bathtub upon her return. Despite efforts to revive her, Houston was pronounced dead at 3:55 p.m. During the investigation, police found an open champagne bottle and a spoon containing a white crystal-like substance near Houston. Additionally, various medications, including an antidepressant, a muscle relaxant, and allergy medication, were found in her system during the autopsy. The coroner's report, released weeks later, attributed Houston's death to heart disease, use, and accidental drowning. It also revealed that Houston had a mild case of emphysema, a lung condition causing shortness of breath, contributing to the gradual loss of her powerful voice. Speculations about Houston's personal life emerged in films, documentaries, and biopics both before and after her death. However, amidst all the scrutiny, what remained unwavering was Houston's musical prowess and her soulful, mesmerizing voice. Clive Davis is widely revered and celebrated as a highly accomplished producer producer. Known for his ability to nurture a diverse array of artists, he has created musical masterpieces that have left an enduring impact on the industry. His legacy and innovative practices have firmly established him as a pivotal figure in shaping the modern music landscape. However, there is a contrasting perception of Clive Davis that paints a more nuanced and controversial picture. Some voices suggest a darker side to his persona, portraying him as one of the industry's early gay gatekeepers who allegedly wielded influence through manipulation and calculated actions. These critics depict him as a strategic operator, working behind the scenes and orchestrating moves that extend beyond the public eye, casting him in the light of a cold-blooded manipulator. Back in 1973, Clive J. Davis, then president of Columbia Records, took immense pride in his long-term agreements with iconic artists. He was instrumental in securing deals for legends like Miles Davis and Johnny Cash, Leonard Bernstein and Chicago, Barbra Streisand and the Byrds. Davis fought hard, investing significant resources to retain talents such as Laura Nyro, and famously refused to accept that Bob Dylan was out of contract for a year after the fact. He found great satisfaction in nurturing the careers of artists like Johnny Winter, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Santana, Sly Stone, and Simon and Garfunkel, seeing their successes as personal triumphs. At age 40, Davis was the commanding figure at the world's largest record company, CBS Incorporated, under a lucrative 5-year contract until April 14, 1975. His dedication to the role, often keeping him in the office on weekends and holidays, earned him $135,000 annually, with additional incentive bonuses totaling $250,000 over 3 years. Then he received additional compensation amounting to $74,000, bringing his total earnings to $359,000. Not bad for a Bronx native whose love for music started with the make-believe ballroom on his radio and whose initial ambition was to excel as a lawyer. Clive Davis had every reason to be proud of his achievements. Soon, however, Davis found himself in seclusion, save for meetings with his criminal lawyer. He faced a grand jury investigation into allegations of interstate HT and potential connections between payola through transactions and Columbia Records. Davis was then ousted from his company, faced lawsuits alleging personal misuse of company funds. With his contract declared null and void, a CBS official labeled him a culprit implicated in questionable activities, while a former loyal executive assistant points to Davis as the one who authorized payola practices at Columbia Records. The scandal thrust payola into the spotlight alongside Watergate, with Columbia Records becoming embroiled in its own potential scandal. The entire music industry was shaken. Aretha's life was anything but easy. You might not guess it from Aretha Franklin's childhood stories, but her parents had a rather complex marriage. Aretha's father, Reverend C.L. Franklin, was a renowned Baptist preacher and civil rights activist. Despite his religious duties, he fathered a child with a teenage member of his congregation, according to his biography, Singing in a Strange Land. Meanwhile, Aretha's mother, Barbara, had a son, Vaughn, with another man. In 1948, when Aretha was just 6 years old, Barbara moved to Buffalo, New York, taking Vaughn with her but leaving CL and her other children behind. "We were all devastated," Aretha's sister Irma shared with biographer David Ritz. "My parents' relationship was stormy and my father had a violent temper. I'd also be lying if I didn't admit that we certainly knew about my father's reputation as a ladies' man. We saw how women in church literally threw themselves at him. After I became older, I saw for myself that he availed himself of many of those women." In a 2018 interview with NPR's Terry Gross, Aretha reflected, "I never discussed it with him, and he never discussed that sort of thing with his children. But as children, we could certainly see that women were kind of aggressively taking off behind him. He was single at the time, and sometimes you might see it with ladies sitting on the front row. A little high, skirts a little short, you know, when women are interested." Although the family still visited Barbara, the move deeply affected Aretha. "The move broke Aretha's little heart," recalled her brother Cecil in the book Respect. Her sister Carolyn added, "I think Mother's move impacted Aretha more than anyone. Aretha was a severely shy and withdrawn child who was especially close to her mother. Aretha and I shared a room, and after Mother left, I saw her cry her eyes out for days at a time. Days before those trips to see Mother, Aretha would have her little bag packed and be ready to go. So, when Aretha was just 10, her mother suddenly died of a heart attack. attack. Reflecting on this in her autobiography, From These Roots, Aretha wrote, "I cannot describe the pain, nor will I try." She recalled sitting in tears for a long time after returning from her mother's burial. Her booking agent, Ruth Bowen, shared more insights with biographer David Ritz. "She was a traumatized child. It's one thing to have your mama move out of the house for reasons you don't understand, but it's another to have your mama die of a heart attack as a young woman. And it happened just like that. No preparation, no warning. Her father told me he was afraid Aretha wouldn't ever recover, that she was unable to talk for weeks. She crawled into a shell and didn't come out until many years later. Without the music, I'm not sure Aretha would have ever found her way out of the shell." At 12 years old, Aretha gave birth to her first child, a son named Clarence, 2 months before her 13th birthday. Aretha never publicly revealed the identity of Clarence's father, but her brother and manager Cecil told Ritz that he was just a guy. Aretha knew from school she wasn't all that interested in him, and I don't think he had any deep interest in her. Aretha described the pregnancy as uneventful in From These Roots, and Cecil mentioned that their father wasn't particularly furious. "He understood these things happen," Cecil explained, adding that their father gathered his children to warn them about the consequences of S. After Aretha had her baby, CL allowed her to drop out of school. However, instead of letting Aretha stay home to care for her child, a responsibility that fell to her paternal grandmother, CL had her start traveling with him and his gospel group on the road. Nick Salvatore, in his biography Singing in a Strange Land, describes how CL Franklin's decision to include his young daughter Aretha on tour forced her to mature quickly. In that intensely emotional, S-charged adult context, she was at once a starstruck kid, a mother still discovering the meaning of those emotions, and an attractive female with a young teenager's profoundly uneven self-confidence. Her very presence unavoidably exposed her to experiences well beyond her years. Aretha later told biographer David Ritz that at age 12, she went back to 23-year-old Sam Cooke's motel room. At 14, Aretha became pregnant again and had her second son, Eddie, who, like her first son Clarence, was given her last name and raised primarily by her grandmother. Aretha mentioned in her memoir that her preacher father accepted this pregnancy as well, but her brother Cecil told Ritz a different story. "It's enough to say he wasn't at all happy, and he made his unhappiness quite clear." The film Respect addresses Aretha's early pregnancies with a degree of ambiguity. In an early scene, when Aretha is about 10 years old, a male family friend enters her bedroom at night and closes the door behind him. In a later scene, the adult Aretha has 2 sons. The filmmakers, Tommy and Wilson, explained to Vanity Fair that they followed Aretha's lead in maintaining vagueness around the paternity of her first son. The specifics of who impregnated her don't matter as much as what it did, in terms of trauma and children not being able to provide consent, said Wilson. Tommy added, "All victims of A should get to share their own stories of abuse on their own timeline and terms." According to biographer David Ritz, Aretha first met Ted White at a party in her family's home in 1954 when she was just 12 years old. In her late teens, as a single mother and rising star, she married White and made him her manager, despite her father's strong objections. Etta James told Ritz, "Ted was supposed to be the slickest pimp in Detroit. When I learned that Aretha married him, I wasn't surprised. A lot of the big-time singers who we idolized as girls had pimps for boyfriends and managers. Part of the lure of pimps was that they got us paid. They protected us. They also beat us up." In a 1968 cover story, Time magazine painted a picture of Aretha as a powerful performer on stage, but someone who seemed to hide behind the scenes. The magazine quoted her cryptically saying, "I've been hurt bad." The story continued by detailing an incident from the previous year when Ted White publicly ate Aretha at Atlanta's Regency Hyatt House Hotel. This was not the first time White had been violent. White, then 37, had a background in Detroit real estate and street deals and had significantly advanced since marrying Aretha and managing her career. Gospel singer Mahalia Jackson commented, "I don't think she's happy. Somebody else is making her sing the blues." Aretha's brother Cecil told Ritz that White was a violent cat whose violence only got worse. "I felt like Aretha was singing Respect to Ted, but it hardly made any difference. He kept slapping her around and didn't care who saw him do it." Etta James drew a comparison between Aretha and Ted's relationship and that of Ike and Tina Turner. Ike made Tina, no doubt about it. He developed her talent. He showed her what it meant to be a performer. He got her famous. Of course, Ted White was not a performer, but he was savvy about the world. As Aretha became increasingly unhappy in her marriage, she allegedly turned to alcohol to numb her pain. Her agent, Ruth Bowen, shared with biographer David Ritz, she had a habit of getting loaded before a performance. In no way did that help her singing. Aretha was big on denial. She didn't want to hear that she had a drinking problem. It didn't matter how many falls she suffered, how many tickets she got, how many subpar performances she gave due to inebriation. Her talent protected her. Even drunk, she could sing better than 99 out of 100 singers. Most people couldn't tell anything was wrong. Aretha never publicly acknowledged her alleged struggle with alcohol. Unlike other celebrities who have garnered sympathy by sharing their personal challenges, Aretha kept her battles private. She had a tough childhood, Ritz explained to People in 2018, shortly after the icon's death, and early on in her career she was hit by the tabloids. There were stories of her being a victim of domestic violence, and she didn't like that. She didn't like the image of her being a beaten woman. She loved the blues, but she didn't want to be seen as a tragic blues figure. The worst thing about Clive is that he is alleged to have greatly enabled Diddy and have been in a romantic relationship with him. Jimmy Iovine allegedly shared shocking news with Suge Knight during a recent episode of Suge's prison podcast, Collect Call with Suge Knight. Known for bringing forth controversial claims, Suge Knight made another unexpected allegation, this time involving Diddy and Clive Davis. According to Knight, the bombshell revelation came during a meeting at Interscope's Westwood office with Jimmy Iovine. "We in the office, in the Westwood Interscope office," Knight began. "I walked in Jimmy's office. I didn't have to knock on the door. We was having a conversation and he overheard somebody say something he probably shouldn't have heard. He said, 'I'm here because Clive Davis told me that him and Puffy's real tight and, lovers.' So I thought he was talking like they got love for each other. I'm like, 'Aight.' He said, 'Nah, they are lovers,' he continued. And I'm like, 'Why do you keep saying that?' I said, 'Are they lovers like F and S?' And he said, 'I don't want to say that, but that's what that means, right?' Knight said, "It's important to note that these claims by Suge Knight are unconfirmed. And this isn't the first time Diddy has been accused of having a romantic relationship with another male celebrity. Similarly, Suge Knight has previously made allegations about other male celebrities engaging in secret relationships. For instance, earlier this year, he alleged that Andre Harrell and Russell Simmons had a romantic relationship, insisting that such matters should be acknowledged openly if true. The former headquarters of Sean Diddy Combs' Bad Boy Worldwide in Manhattan now lies in ruins, reduced to rubble save for two jagged concrete pillars that stand as remnants of its once prominent existence. The building at 1710 Broadway, originally a Ford Motor Company showroom dating back to 1919, bore witness to an era when it proudly displayed a gold and silver awning proclaiming itself as Diddy's domain. However, much like this physical symbol of his corporate reign, the 54-year-old hip-hop mogul's empire has faced significant challenges amidst a flurry of SA allegations and legal battles. Combs, who has not faced any charges, did not respond to requests for comment regarding these allegations, which he has vehemently denied. This stark contrast marks a departure from Combs' humble beginnings. Rising through the ranks of the music industry, he exuded confidence from his early days as an intern at Uptown Records to establishing Bad Boy Records in 1992. His influence on hip-hop history is indelible, from fueling the infamous East Coast-West Coast rap rivalry to producing the notorious Big S acclaimed posthumous album Ready to Die, which soared to number 3 on the Billboard charts. Combs also made significant signings such as Biggie's widow Faith Evans, as well as stars like Mace, Machine Gun Kelly, and Janelle Monáe. Beyond music, Combs diversified his portfolio over the past 2 decades, expanding into various lifestyle sectors. His ventures included the Sean John fashion and fragrance lines, a highly successful partnership with Diageo for Ciroc Vodka, and founding of the Revolt TV network. His financial prowess was substantial, with reported earnings nearing $1 billion before taxes and fees. In 2019, Forbes estimated Combs' wealth at $740 million, though he and his team claimed he was a billionaire without providing documentation. Forbes now conservatively estimates his net worth at $400 million. However, amidst the gravity of ongoing civil cases and reports of a federal investigation into human trafficking, Combs faces serious legal and financial threats. He and his representatives did not respond to requests for comment on Forbes' revised net worth estimate. The U.S. government confirmed to media outlets action was taken in connection to the investigation. In March 2024, federal agents conducted raids on Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles as part of the probe, although it remains unclear if he is the primary target. Last November, his ex-girlfriend and former Bad Boy artist Cassie Ventura filed a lawsuit accusing him of SA and prolonged a spanning more than a decade. Ventura's lawsuit, filed in federal court, alleged Combs her and coerced her into encounters with other men. The lawsuit was settled one day after filing, with Combs denying all allegations and stating the settlement was not an admission of guilt. In 2016, CNN obtained a surveillance video that surfaced last month, showing Diddy involved in a violent altercation with Ventura. In response, he posted a now-deleted apology video on Instagram within 48 hours where he condemned his actions as disgusting, although he did not mention Ventura by name. Concurrently, Ventura filed a lawsuit, and the same month saw 2 more women using New York's Adult Survivors Act to file lawsuits against Combs. These lawsuits accused him of SA, physical A, and coercive. The legal troubles continued to mount for Combs, with 4 additional lawsuits filed in New York between December 2023 and May 2024. These lawsuits were brought by individual plaintiffs, including one by Combs' former producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones. Throughout these legal proceedings, Combs has consistently denied all allegations, with his legal representatives dismissing them as baseless and motivated by financial gain. That's all for the video, folks. Thanks for watching.